Hi, are you dealing with anxiety, depression? Oh, that sounds really fucking cheesy. Oh my god. Hey everyone, so today's video, it's gonna be more of a personal video, I would say. I'm gonna be talking about anxiety, my struggle with anxiety. I'm going to give out 10 sort of realistic, practical, kind of everyday tips and tricks that I know work for me. They may not work for you. Keep that in mind. I'm gonna put a big disclaimer here that says, you know, this is totally subjective. This is something that I think will work for me, and I hope that it works for you. That's my hope. But anxiety is different for everybody. I know personally myself, I get things like anxiety attacks. When I do have anxiety attacks, I get really bad physical symptoms. I get really bad crushing chest pain, and I get sleeplessness, insomnia, locked joints. I get tingling and numbness. I lose my appetite, and even on like really rare occasions, I've actually blacked out a couple of times from anxiety attacks. It gets that bad, and it's not really something that it's easy to talk about. Like when you go to parties, it's like not the first thing you're gonna bring up and just be like, oh hey, I have anxiety, you know, how nice to meet you. I mean, I feel like it's important to talk about because I know that a lot of people deal with it. And one thing that's kind of interesting is that over the last little while, I've actually noticed a lot more people being open about it, which is awesome. It's a little bit shocking to me because I'm hearing from friends and family members that they've been dealing with anxiety. And these are people who I never, you know, they had never talked about it, they'd never brought it up, and so I just sort of didn't assume that they were dealing with that kind of stuff, but they were, and they would, sometimes they didn't even know that they were, you know, dealing with anxiety. They would say like, oh, like, Stefan, I had the worst day yesterday, my heart was like beating really quickly, I was getting sweaty, I couldn't think, I was really nervous, I just felt on edge all day. And I'm like, well, do you usually have anxiety? Like, that's an anxiety attack. That's what I would think is an anxiety attack. And then they're kind of like shocked. They're like, anxiety? Like, no, I don't really have that. Isn't that like being really nervous, or like having stage fright, or like, you know, social anxiety and things like that? And like, yeah, it is. I mean, I feel like anxiety is a really umbrella term, and there are a lot of different things that kind of fall into those categories. So when I talk about anxiety, I don't want to, you know, limit it just to my sort of anxiety, which is a generalized anxiety disorder, where I have bouts of anxiety attacks, and I get sort of random onset anxiety throughout the day. It could be triggered by things, but then sometimes it just comes out of nowhere, just right out of left field, and kind of knocks me out a little bit. In saying that, I don't really want to put myself into a situation where I'm, you know, excluding other people's types of anxiety. I know there are many types of anxiety. I have friends who have really bad social anxiety where, you know, even making a phone call is a really big deal to them, and you know, it's serious. It may seem silly to some people, but it's a big deal. It's a mental illness, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously. So I am going to talk a little bit about my experience with panic attacks, what I think personally is going to help people who are watching this video who may be experiencing them. I really hope you aren't, but if you are, just know you're not alone. Lots of people deal with these things, and like I said, people are dealing with these things without even knowing that they're dealing with these things, so yeah. Oh, I also want to quickly mention, as another disclaimer, is that don't substitute these for medical advice, because I'm not a professional. I'm not certified to be giving medical advice or anything like that. So don't take this as, you know, Bible truth, because this is just, like I said, things that I deal with, or methods that I use, really practical methods that help me in coping with my anxiety. So remember that. If you do have like a psychiatrist or a family doctor or something like that, and they're telling you, you know, they're giving you their advice, listen to them because they know what they're talking about. So, now, tip number 1. Do not Google your symptoms. I cannot stress this enough. This is something that my boyfriend makes fun of me for constantly. I will get a headache and I will immediately go straight to my like phone or my computer or something and Google what I'm feeling. And it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. It's so bad. Don't do it. I think there's even a word for it. It's like cyberchondria or something like that. But basically, if you have like a headache or something and you're Googling it, pain in head, what do you think's gonna come up? There's gonna be a whole whack of things. You know, head trauma, brain swelling, aneurysm, cancer, tumors, like all of these things are gonna be coming up because it's such a broad symptom. When you're having anxiety and you're having these physical symptoms, one thing that people do is they just immediately start Googling to try to find some help for it, some treatments, maybe some things to make it better, but I can guarantee you it is only going to make it worse. If you're having really bad physical symptoms, like I get chest pain and stuff like that, really bad chest pain where it feels like I can't breathe and like somebody's squeezing my chest or sitting on top of me, it's really hard to gasp for breath, I hyperventilate, things like that. I've learned to distinguish what is anxiety and what is not. If I get a sharp, chilling pain up my right arm or my left arm, then I would probably look a little bit more into it. If you're really unsure, make sure you go to a doctor. Don't try to chalk it up to anxiety if you are 100% convinced that something is wrong with you, because you know, you have to go with your gut sometimes. Don't self-diagnose, and make sure that you aren't looking for some problems, because you will find them and it will suck. Okay, so tip number 2 that I'm gonna be giving you is physical activity. It doesn't have to be, you know, going for a 5K run or going to the gym and pumping iron for an hour or anything like that. I'm talking bare minimum physical activity. If you're having a panic attack or you're feeling on edge or you have anxiety, one of the best things you can do, and even studies have proven this, is to just get the blood flowing, you know? Like, go for a brisk walk. It doesn't even have to be brisk, just go for a walk. Leave your surroundings, because a lot of the time, if you're having anxiety, it's really hard to feel better if you're standing still, if you're just unchanging and you're staying in the same environment. What I find really helps is, if I have anxiety, I'll just go for a walk. I'll go for a walk around the block, and just the physical act of walking really, it gets, like I said, it gets the blood flowing, and then it also keeps your mind off of sort of what's going on in your body, because it doesn't give your body as much time to deal with all of the emotions that you're going through, and it releases a lot of good feels in your body. I'm sure there's a scientific explanation for it, but I know from some things that I've read that just getting that cortisol and stuff going really helps you with lowering your levels of anxiety and stress. So keep that in mind. If you're having anxiety, go for a run, go for a swim, go for a jog. Just make sure that you're not dwelling in the same place for too long, because that is not going to help you. Tip number 3. This is something that I've just recently got into. It's called mindfulness. It's sort of a thinking strategy, sort of a coping mechanism that I came across from my counselor to help me deal with anxiety when I'm in the moment. This is more for like when I'm actually having a panic attack. And basically what mindfulness is, it's a process of thinking where you sort of limit your mind and your attention to focus on one thing. So for example, if I'm having a really bad panic attack at school or something, if I want to like help myself get over it, what I'll do is I'll practice mindfulness. I will focus on, let's say, just a random object around the room. So something as simple as a pencil or an eraser, or even like the keychain hanging off of somebody's backpack in front of you, just anything. So the goal is to focus on the object and explain it as if you were going to explain it to a friend, or how you would describe it. So wipe your mind clear of all the things that you know about the object and just go from there. So how does it look? What does it smell like? What are its colors? Its texture? Is it hard? Is it soft? You know, is it making any noise? Anything like that. Like, just completely enthrall yourself in that one object. You'll find that when you're focusing so hard on that one thing to figure out all of sort of what it's about, you're not giving your mind time to wander, time to overthink, time to catastrophize, or anything like that. If your mind wanders, you're kind of just grabbing it back and like shooting it into a different direction, in this one direction. And it doesn't have to be anything serious. It can literally just be like an eraser. Oh, this eraser is pink. Oh, it's, you know, it's small. It looks soft. It's probably for erasing things. If you just focus all of your attention on that one thing, you're gonna realize that things are not gonna be as bad. It helps, trust me. Okay, tip number 4. This one is pretty easy. This is probably one of the first things people are gonna tell you when you're having anxiety, and that is breathing. The reason that people tell you, oh, you need to breathe, this and that, because it's true. It works. It's like the bare minimum that you can do for yourself when you're having an anxiety attack. Because one thing that happens when people have anxiety is that their heart rate tends to get a little bit elevated and they start to hyperventilate. You start to feel like you can't breathe, so you start grasping on short breaths, and pretty soon it's like, you know, like you aren't gonna be able to calm yourself down if you're constantly, you know, breathing in and out like that. It's really kind of a vicious cycle. So one thing that you actually can do is slow your breathing, take big deep breaths in, and that's actually going to force your body to calm down. I have a lot of different methods of breathing, and I've learned a lot of different breathing techniques from my counselors over the years, but the one that I like the most is a breathing technique where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and then you exhale for 8 seconds. And then you repeat that over and over and over again until you start to feel yourself calm down. You may have to do it for a while, or you may have to do it for a little bit. It's different for everybody, but guaranteed that will help calm you down a little bit. Tip number 5. So this tip is a little bit different. This one is called daytime compartments. And basically, I mean, that sounds really complicated, but what it is basically breaking your day up into smaller, more manageable compartments. And that could be anything from as simple as, you know, living hour by hour or minute by minute. I know that that's one thing that I was doing, because when I wake up in the morning and I have anxiety about a certain thing, what I'll tend to do is keep thinking about my day as a whole, or my week as a whole, or my month as a whole. I think of all these problems, all these things that I'm nervous about, things that I'm anxious about, things that are out of my control, and I just let them kind of fly around, and it seems really daunting because I'm focusing on all of them at once, you know? I'm not giving myself a chance to break them up and see them for what they are, which is just, you know, day-by-day events. So one thing that I started doing was when I would wake up in the morning, I would try to live my life in sort of daytime compartments. It really helped. Like, when I would be going to school and things like that, I would live hour to hour. I wouldn't even, you know, I wouldn't even think about what I'm going to be doing after lunch. I'd just be focusing on that hour. So from, you know, 11 p.m. to 12 p.m., I'm going to be in class. That's all I'm going to worry about. It's just what's going on in that moment. Then 12 comes along. From 12 to 1, I'll maybe be eating. That's all I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to be focusing on the exam that's at 3 p.m. because I'm going to freak myself out, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to go into it already jacked up on anxiety, and that's not going to be healthy. I'm not going to think about, you know, tomorrow I have a job interview. Obviously I'm going to think about it a little bit because I have to prepare, but I'm not going to let myself overthink about it. I'm just going to focus on what I gotta do right now to get through what I'm doing, and then sooner or later you realize, okay, I just got through that hour, I got through that other hour, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I went through 6 hours without feeling, you know, like the weight of the world was falling down on me. That's another really cool tip that I like doing, which is just, you know, breaking things up, chopping them into little pieces, and then dealing with them one by one, because then they don't seem so big. Tip number 6. So this tip is pretty simple too. This is just self-care. One of the biggest things that I know that helps me with my anxiety is avoiding things like alcohol. I drink maybe like once every other week, and I've really started to like trim down on my drinking, because I know that after a night of drinking alcohol, my anxiety is the absolute worst it ever is. Ever. And every single time I'm finished drinking, I always feel like, God, that was such a big mistake. Like, oh, like, why did I do that? And then I have anxiety for like 3 days straight, and it's the worst feeling. The worst. I just want to die. It's horrible. It's like my body is just giving up on me. So that's my biggest tip. If you don't drink, don't start. If you have really bad anxiety and you're thinking, what'll make it better? Drinking is not going to help. Drinking is a depressant. It's going to make you feel horrible later on. Yeah, sure, it'll like take your mind off of some things, but if you're drinking to sort of quell the problems that you're having in your life, that's a whole nother conversation you need to be having, and alcohol's not going to make it better. So keep that in mind. Another thing that, you know, in going with that, is to avoid caffeine. I know personally this really, really helped me. I used to drink coffee all the time. When I was like 16, 17, I worked at Starbucks and I got free coffee all the time, so obviously, yeah, I'm gonna drink it. So here I am drinking these venti, quadra, whatever the hell, these drinks with like, you know, 5 shots of espresso. Holy crap, did they ever fuck with my anxiety. I got diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder when I was 17, but before that, I didn't know what it was. I just thought that like caffeine was doing it, and the caffeine was doing a lot of it, but it was this overlying problem that the caffeine was just making harder. After I would drink like an extra large double-double or something from, you know, Tim Hortons, or if I would go to Starbucks and get a venti caramel macchiato or something, after I'm finished drinking it, I just like, I would get sweaty, my heart rate would start going from the caffeine, I would feel like kind of dizzy, like, you know, have a headache, and oh my god, the anxiety, it would get so bad, and it was always a trigger for me, caffeine, always a trigger for me, and I realized, you know, I just have to stop drinking coffee. So I stopped drinking coffee, I switched to non-caffeinated tea. My life has been so much better since then. Tea is really soothing, really helpful, so I suggest drinking that. Stay away from caffeine, it's gonna give you some unwanted problems. Or who knows, maybe you're immune to caffeine, you've been drinking it your entire life and it does nothing to you. That's fine too, but I'm just saying that's something that I realized really helped me when I cut that out of my diet. And also just kind of, you know, look after yourself, practice self-care, take showers, use moisturizer, wash your hands. These are all really good tips to help you with your anxiety. Also, like, avoid drugs. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer, but sometimes people like to self-medicate and give themselves, you know, take drugs and things like that to overcome some of their problems. But drugs will definitely not help you with the anxiety. A lot of them are really dangerous, very dangerous, and have really adverse effects on you. And anxiety is going to be probably the least of your worries if you start running into problems with drugs. Definitely will not make it better. So keep that in mind. Tip number 7, get a counselor. Go to therapy. Get help. And when I say that, I don't mean go out and find a psychiatrist and spend thousands of dollars to get insurance to cover it and, you know, see him every other week and this and that. You don't have to do that. Counseling does not mean going to see a shrink. Counseling's it's an umbrella term. There's counseling for everything. You can get counseling from your friend. You can get counseling from your mom, your teacher. You can get counseling from literally your little sister. Like, when I first got my counselor, I was so happy. I had gone through maybe 3 or 4 counselors before I found the right one, and that is so important. If you're gonna go see a counselor and you feel uncomfortable with them, I mean, you're gonna know within the first 5 seconds of meeting them. You shake their hand, if you're not comfortable, red light's gonna go off, you're gonna know that. Do not see that person anymore. They're not gonna be offended. Just tell them, you know, I don't think it's a good fit. No problem. Find another one. You keep going through these people until you find the right fit. Somebody that you feel comfortable with. Somebody that you're comfortable talking to about your personal problem. That's gonna be like the biggest thing that you're gonna have to go through, is just finding a way to talk about all of these things. Even just having somebody listen to your problems is enough. It really is. It's medication in its own, you know? Being able to have all these things inside of you that are rotting away and just to release them by talking to somebody, writing them down. You know, that's another form of therapy. Writing things down, making music, you know, things like that. Just anything for getting these feelings out of you. So counseling is definitely something that I will just, you know, sing high praises for, because I think that it makes a huge difference. If I could get counseling for literally everything in my life, I would. So tip number 8 is gonna be a little bit confusing to some people. It's not gonna really make a whole lot of sense. I'll do my best to explain it, but basically it's cognitive behavioral therapy. I know, it sounds daunting. It sounds like a textbook phrase. It probably is, but this is something that I learned from my counselor as well. It's something that really hit home with me, so I'm gonna just really quickly try to explain it. The one that I really liked was over-exaggerating your problems. And now, I know that sounds kind of fucked up, like why would you want to make your problems worse? But, hear me out. Let's say one of your biggest anxieties is a test that you have coming up. Let's just say, for example, it's a spelling test, whatever. You've been studying for a month straight for this spelling test. You know, it's a big deal. It's something that really is just always constantly on your mind. It's really eating away at you, not really letting you enjoy your life because you're so worried about not doing well on it. So cognitive behavioral therapy would say, what is the worst that can happen? We want to exaggerate your fears. So you're gonna have to explore that a little bit. So the worst that could happen, you could fail the test. Okay, let's go with that. So you can fail the test. Why is that a bad thing? If I get a low mark, my overall average goes down in the class. Okay, well why is that a big deal? Well, if my average gets too low, I'll fail. Okay, and why is that bad? You know, we just kind of keep going and going and going. So if I fail the course, then I have to retake it. Is that something that's going to be really bad? Well, yeah, it sucks. I don't want to retake it because then I'll have to do it next semester. Okay, is that the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen, I can fail the course, I'll have to retake it. Great, so you have to retake it. Did you survive? Yes. You're not dead. The worst that can happen is you die. You're not dead. So you kind of just force yourself to keep kind of thinking in that mindset. What's the worst that can happen? And then after that, what's the worst that can happen? Can you deal with that? What's the absolute worst that can happen then? Can you deal with that? And just kind of keep going and going and going. And you're gonna realize that, yeah, it's gonna suck for a little bit. I'm gonna have to maybe do a little bit of extra work. But in the grand scheme of things, this small test that's literally ruining my life with anxiety, it's not actually as bad as I'm making it out to be. And I will survive. I will survive. I will get through it, you know? Like, it's not gonna be life-ending. That's another thing that I really like to think about. And that's just one example of cognitive behavioral therapy. There's lots, you know, there's lots of different methods and different diagrams and models and things like that, but that's one that I was reading about that I really liked, and yeah, hopefully it helps you. Tip number 9. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. Find your happy place. And when I say that, I mean find a place that you know is going to bring you immediate good feelings, a place that you know that is safe, familiar, someplace that you really just feel comfortable. And it could also be a mind state. It could be an activity, it could be a physical place, anything. My happy place is the shower. I know that sounds crazy, but it really helps me. It's my happy place. It's like when I go take a hot steaming shower, the whole entire world is just shut out. The water is so calming on me. I feel so good, I feel so safe, I feel like nothing can touch me. I'm warm, I'm relaxed. It's just like, I feel so much better. And so when I'm having a really horrible anxiety attack, that's one thing that I do, is I just go take a shower. Even if I've taken a shower that day, I just go. As the water's running over me, I just kind of feel like my anxiety just lowers, you know, immediately just by being in there, because I've trained myself to feel comfortable there, to feel safe there. So that's something that I do. But I know, like, I have friends and family who they have their own happy places. I have friends who are artists. When they feel stressed out or panicked or anything like that, they go and make art. Or they go to an art gallery and look at art there. You know, some of them are people who like music, so they'll go and listen to their favorite song, you know? Just blast that song on repeat. That's their happy place. Shut the world out, you know? Okay, so I screwed up my count, and I don't know which tip I'm on now. I think I'm on the second last or the last one. Whatever. This tip is diet, eating healthy. This is something that you have to do. You have to make sure that you're eating healthy, taking care of your body. Your body is the place that's gonna make you feel anxiety. So if you feed it good things, if you treat it well, you know, take care of it, you only have one body, it's gonna reward you by feeling healthy, you know, feeling energetic, feeling less stressed, detoxified, all those kind of things. A lot of people like to eat comfort food and stuff like that when they have anxiety. Try not to. It's gonna be difficult. Get a lot of sleep, 8 hours at least, you know. Sleep is really important. If you're feeling hungry, or if you're feeling like you didn't get enough sleep, or you're tired, it's gonna lead to anxiety, trust me. So, and the last tip, I guess it would be tip number 10, smile. Smile, smile, smile. There's this saying, you know, fake it till you make it. I actually really believe that that's true, because I read something somewhere where it was like, a physical act of smiling releases these neurotransmitters, these chemicals in your mind that actually make you happy, raise your serotonin levels, blah blah blah. I totally believe that. I don't really smile all that much, and even just smiling now, like, it actually really helps. It makes you feel better. You gotta be open to happiness. And it sucks because when you're having anxiety, you're in this little hole, this little pit, and everything around you is just dark. And, you know, you can only look up and you don't know kind of what's out there, you know, all the possibilities, because you're so stuck in this little hole. Being open to happiness, allowing yourself to feel happy, even faking it, just, you know, like trying your hardest to be happy is, you know, it goes a long way. You have to be willing and open to experience those things, because it's so easy to just get stuck in that cycle of just, you know, being in a funk and not ever looking for an opportunity to get out of it. So keep that in mind. I really hope that these tips helped you. Like I said, they are pretty personal to me, and they helped me get through a lot. And if you're having anxiety, just know that you're not alone. It's an everyday, constant battle, but it's one thing that you can slowly but surely conquer. And I hope that these tips worked for you. Leave a comment below if you have your own tips, or, you know, if something worked for you or anything like that. I'd really like to know. Having a conversation about anxiety is something that I wanted to do for a long time, because I felt so powerless, you know, I felt so like alone. I always kept it inside, and I always thought, like, you know what, nobody's gonna understand. Why should I bring this up? It's gonna make things awkward. People are gonna think weird of me. They're gonna, you know, think I'm making excuses for not wanting to hang out, for not being able to do this, do that, whatever, you know? It stopped me from doing a lot of things, and I don't want that to happen to other people. So please take care of yourself, and know that you can get through it. Yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, whatever, like, subscribe, share, all that crap, and I will make sure that I make another video. See ya. When I'm talking about anxiety, I am referring,